You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like any other time, we have a special guest. Today, we're going to learn all about love. It's right there. It's a website for our guest, is strong.love. And our guest for today, she's going to be sharing us a little bit about what she does. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist based in Austin, Texas. She's an expertise in relationships, trauma work, and sex therapy. She has a special focus in supporting first responder couples and addressing men's issues. But before I just go too further along, I have to get her name. Her name is Kristal DeSantis, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you for taking time to talk to us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I only went about 25% in your portfolio and bio, but I just want to get you on. So first and foremost, when it comes to your professional background, do a little bit better justice than I have. Kind of give us a better picture of what inspired you to go this route in your professional field and how you got there.
So I've been a therapist now for 10 years. I graduated and got licensed in 2014 with my master's degree. And before that, I think I was like a lot of people out there, just trying to make my way in the world, trying to find love, trying to date, not being very successful, but kind of figuring like I have time, I'm young, I'll figure it out at some point. And then on a dating app, I met my husband. And I realized, like, from our very first connection that I really liked him and I had no idea how to have a healthy relationship. So I went to therapy for myself first, and I ended up meeting with a marriage and family therapist who I learned a lot from. And so then I realized, like, gosh, I've learned so much from this. Now I've been married now also, for 14 years, or with my husband for 14 years. And I realized, like, this can make a huge difference in people's lives. So I want to do it too. So then I decided to go to school, get my master's, and focus on relationships and marriage and family therapy. And so that's what I do.
And you've been on respectable platforms, some household names even. So when you look at the work you've been able to do professionally, how you've been able to make an impact with your services and your knowledge, how does it feel to be able to just see the work you've done is gone a long way?
Oh, it's so rewarding because, I see it in the office every day. When people can figure out how to have healthy relationships, it just completely changes their lives, right? So much stress comes from not having healthy interpersonal relationships with either friends, family, but definitely romantic partnerships, right? It's like if you and your partner are fighting, or you're having a lot of stress, you can't have healthy conflict. It really just impacts all of the ways that you interact in the world. And it really affects your work as well. And so this is also where, my focus on first responders, personally, I am a first responder spouse as well. And I just noticed how much, your mental health is impacted by the relationship that you get to go home to, right? So if you're stressed at work, you have a really stressful day, you have trauma, you're exposed to high stress and, pain, and then you go home and it's a high stress environment and you're in pain because you and your wife are fighting or your kids are unhappy. It really takes a toll. And so I really wanted to make an impact for this population, for people that are high functioning, high stress, working in high stress environments, and help them have healthier relationships.
You have a model with your therapy. It's called the STRONG model. For our viewers and audience, if you can kind of break that down and what is that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's one thing I noticed is, there's a lot of information out there about relationships. If you go on social media, you get all kinds of messages. And so, I wanted something really simple, a guide on, what is a healthy relationship. So, through my research, through my practice as well, I really kind of dialed it down into these 6 pillars of what makes a healthy relationship. And, kind of conveniently, it's that idea that strong is healthy, right? And so, especially for people that, maybe a lot of men too, this is kind of my passion population is working with men, is, getting a formula down, having steps to follow, having tools and skills that you can really work on and practice so that you can get strong. And sometimes I like to talk about, going to therapy is like going to the gym for your relationship. It's not like I think there's some stigma that it's like being sent to the principal's office. And I really wanted to change that. It's like, no, it's somewhere that you go to get strong, to invest in your marriage, to invest in your relationships. And so just breaking it down, the strong model is the 6 pillars of what makes a healthy relationship. So the first element, S, is safety, right? Any healthy relationship starts with safety. Obviously physical safety, but emotional safety as well, safety in communication, safety in conflict, acknowledging that even healthy relationships will have disagreements. But if you can disagree with your partner in a safe way, and it can actually make your relationship stronger, right? You don't have to avoid conflict, but it has to be safe. So safety is step 1. Step 2 is trust, right? Which is, again, if you can't trust your partner, if you're worried that they're, out there, running around, you're not going to feel, this is not going to be a healthy relationship, right? So when you have safety, then you can start to trust each other. And that's, building the bond, building a strong attachment between the two of you. I have your back and you have mine. We trust each other. At the end of the day, it's, us against the world, ride or die. This is my partner. This is the person that I can trust will always have my back. And that, again, is an essential element in a healthy relationship. The R is respect, which, I've heard, again, talking to men and women, feeling respected is such a crucial element for especially a lot of men in relationships, right? They're like, I don't, she says she loves me, but I don't feel respected. And same thing, vice versa, right? The women say, I know he loves me, but sometimes I feel like he doesn't respect my opinion or he doesn't respect my boundaries. And so really figuring out, like, how do you translate love into respect when it comes to a healthy relationship, right? Is that, yes, we're a unit, yes, we're a couple, but we're also individuals that have our own unique needs, right? And our own unique, flavors of how we like to be loved, and being able to respect that and talk about that is again, super important in a healthy, strong relationship. The O is openness, right? Is, recognizing that throughout your life, you and your partner are going to go through some stuff, right? Is the people that you are when you're 20 years old and first, meet each other in college are not going to be the people that have kids together. And it's a good thing, right? Life is always about change. Growth is about change, being open to new possibilities. And being able to also communicate with your partner throughout your relationship. Because one of the things I noticed, especially in my work, is sometimes it's not big conflict that breaks people apart. It's they grow apart. Right? I think we've all heard those stories of people that were like, gosh, we had so much fun together when we were first dating in our 20s. We went on road trips. We saw concerts. And then, life happened and we had a bunch of kids, and then we just worked all the time and we just didn't connect anymore. And next thing you know, our kids graduated and we don't have anything to talk about. And so the openness is so crucial, that you keep each other updated on, like, what's going on in your life? Who are you these days? What are your needs? How do you change? Which also contributes to a really healthy sex life as well, right? Intimacy is so important. And then N is for nurturing, right? The idea that when you are in a healthy relationship, you get to be the best version of yourself, right? That your hopes and dreams are nurtured by the strength of the relationship. Like, if you have career dreams, you can go further with a supportive partner by your side, right? If you want to create a family, again, you go further with a partner who's also wanting to invest in having a family with you, and you have shared visions and shared dreams, and you nurture those dreams and you create a legacy. So that's really the end. That's the end. That's nurturing a legacy. What do you want to leave in the world? And then G is generosity, which is kind of the, like, I like to just call it like the fairy dust of the relationship. It's like when you got the meat and potatoes of safety, trust, respect, all the other good stuff. And generosity is really that, like, it's the dessert at the end of the meal. It's that stuff that really separates a relationship that looks good on paper to a relationship that you can sense there's a real, looking out for each other. There's camaraderie. There's like, I just thought of my partner, so I picked this up. It's like, is it your anniversary? It's like, no, I just, I know she likes these flowers, or I know he likes, this dessert or whatever, and I just picked it up for him. That generous mindset of wanting to make your partner's life better. That's kind of the, like, little fairy dust of a healthy relationship. So, yeah, that's the STRONG model. And, I have a book, and I have steps that I work through with couples so that you can, work through that and have a healthy relationship.
You've been listening to Be Focused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Kristal DeSantis. You can go to her website, it's strong.love. Again, that's strong.love. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist based in Austin, Texas. The next question for you, now that we know that model and how that works with your approach and how you help your clients, my next question will be, what role does trauma play? I know we're getting shorter in time, so we may not go extreme long, but when you think about trauma and how that plays a role in impacting relationships, what's some of the things that you've been seeing as far as patterns and how that can be addressed?
Yeah, absolutely. So trauma therapy, first of all, it's really powerful. It works. So if you're out there and you're wondering, what should I do? Definitely seek out some trauma therapy. It can be really helpful. And the reason why it's helpful is because, trauma changes your brain from thinking of the world as a safe place to knowing that the world is a really unsafe place, right? And it changes your brain in relationships from seeing other people as points of connection to trying to protect yourself from the pain that other people can potentially cause, right? And so we go from seeking connection to seeking protection. And that's where trauma impacts relationships because, if you've been hurt by a partner in the past or you grew up in a home where your parents, were not there for you, your way of looking at relationships might be more of like self-protective, which is not really keeping you open for connection. So really going to therapy and working through that. And, obviously there's trauma that comes from work as well. Again, I work with a lot of first responders. EMDR is a type of therapy that is really impactful for that. And it helps to rewire the brain because ultimately what we want to do is be open for connection in our relationships. So, addressing your trauma can really help with that.
When people are looking into the dating lifestyle, a lot of people, they say what they say about the scene. It's always about what's the scene like, and it's always ever going, changing storyline on that part. But you say yourself you had some success in that realm. So for our listening audience, especially for the men out there, what are some of the things that they can keep in mind when they decide, okay, it's time to get back on the dating scene?
The dating scene, I will acknowledge, especially with the apps, is really, really tough out there these days. So the one thing I will say is, have a really good support system, have a good community, because it can be kind of brutal out there, right? It's like, swiping and then getting rejected or getting stood up or having somebody ghost you. It's like, it really can be demoralizing. So making sure that you have, a solid group of friends, a good community that you can connect with, sometimes even take a break from online dating and meeting people in person. These are all things that I encourage people to do, is like remind yourself that life is not all online. Sometimes we can all get into that rut, especially when winter's coming, is like you kind of end up on your phone all the time and you're like, where do I even have any friends? Like, does anyone even like me? And so just really staying connected in person is so important, especially to keep your morale up. Because it can be hard out there, right? And, I always like to say, too, is there's, the saying of luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? And so rather than waiting to just get lucky in love, take some time to do some preparation, right? Evaluate, like, am I in a healthy place? Why would I want a relationship right now? What is it that I'm looking for? If I did meet the person, again, like I had to figure out, like, am I ready? Do I have the skills to have a healthy relationship? Do I even have the time to devote to investing in a long-term relationship or not? And again, just being really honest with yourself, so that when the opportunity does come, you are prepared. And then you do get lucky in love, but not just, waiting for lightning to strike.
And communication is always a big thing in anything that we do, not just outside of our intimate relationships, but just on a professional level as well. What are some ways that our listeners and viewers can better understand that, all right, when it comes to how I communicate effectively? What are some of the things that they can keep in mind, understanding that there's a difference between professional relationships versus your partner?
Yeah, absolutely. But even in any relationships, I always like to say, so in the first chapter on safety, I talk about how self-regulation and self-expression, being able to calm your body. So whether you're in a business meeting or talking to your partner, if you start getting activated, it can really derail a conversation really quick, right? You start maybe being a little aggressive, trying to get your point across, you stop listening. So knowing how to regulate your body. Also, with self-expression, if you can't tell your partner or you can't tell your business partner what you don't know. And so really getting clear on what you want to say so that you can express it in a way that's articulate is really important regardless. There's also one other piece that I put in my book about the 4 positions of conversation. And again, that goes for whatever type of conversation you're in, is making sure that you are bringing the right tools to the conversation that you're in. So I talk about there's listening conversations where your job is just to be a listener. There's joining conversations where you need to be empathetic and understanding, right? Let's say you have an upset customer, that's, or an upset girlfriend or boyfriend, right? Empathy is really important. There's fixing, which is if, let's say business, you got to fix a problem, but also in relationships. Sometimes I see people jump to fix when their partner doesn't want that, and that causes a lot of conflict. And then debate, right, which is kind of the last thing that is often really exciting, really bonding when you're among your friends. But again, in your work environment or with your partner, being really careful about when you're debating them when that's not really what they want.
Once again, you listen on Refocus Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest. Today, you go to her website, it's It's strong.love. Again, that's strong.love. And our guest, Kristal DeSantis, want to say thank you for your time. We have a few more minutes left, so about 60 seconds real quick. Might have to have you on in the future again, but when you think about attachment, you talking about bonding. So when it comes to healthy attachment versus unhealthy attachment, I know we have a few seconds left, but what do you think about that and how our viewers can keep that in mind?
Yeah. First of all, I would say if you haven't heard of attachment styles, go ahead and, look into it, start learning about it, because it will give you insight into yourself, because all relationships fundamentally have an attachment between two people, right? And so if you can understand, the way that you were raised and the attachment that you had with your parents and your siblings, how that impacted the way that you tend to attach to other people, it'll just give you insight into yourself and your tendencies in relationships. I always want to say that, your DNA is not your destiny. Like the family that you grew up in, if it was dysfunctional, doesn't mean that you're never going to have healthy, functional relationships. But it is important to acknowledge the impact that your childhood attachments have on you and on your tendencies in your romantic relationships. But I always want to say, if there are two people that want to have a secure attachment, if they do it, if they do the work and they, put their mind to it and, go to therapy and do all the things, the secure attachment is absolutely possible no matter where you came from, because the security is in the bond that you create with your partner. And that's why I like to do this work is, it doesn't matter where you came from. You can always create a secure attachment with the person that you are currently in a relationship with. And that's where you get strong love.
We've been talking to our guest today, Kristal DeSantis. You go to her website, strong.love. Again, that's strong.love. And you also can look at all the resources that she has. Once again, she's a licensed marriage and family therapist based in Austin, Texas. So if you live in Austin or you know someone who does, this podcast show is based in Texas, anyway, San Antonio. So to our Austin friends, make sure you go check her out. If real quickly, if someone wants to start the process and contact you, what does the process look like for them to be a client of yours?
I have the option of booking a quick 15-minute phone call with me where I'm happy to answer any questions you have. There are lots of different therapists, lots of different specialties. I want to make sure that we're going to be a good fit. So I do a free 15-minute consultation. And then we go from there. Scheduling, I offer virtual and in person in South Austin. I can offer virtual services anywhere in Texas. So, yeah, but I always like to make that one-on-one connection first and hear your story, just to make sure that we would be a good fit. If not, I've got some amazing resources.
Well, if you are someone or you know someone who lives in Austin or in the state of Texas, if you want to check out the resources he has, go to strong.love. Again, that's strong.love. Been talking to Kristal DeSantis. I want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you.